Hello and welcome to Mission Alive. My missionary life has always been spent in Papua New Guinea, mostly in Milne Bay, over at Yule Island in the west, and then in Port Moresby in Central Province, but mainly in Milne Bay. The first place I went to was Dio. Oh, it was a lovely place and I loved those children very, very much. But the thing was, I was teaching grade 1, just after preps, and they knew no English and I knew no language. So I would say a thing over and over again. And they would say the thing over and over again, but they wouldn't do anything. Like if I said, sit down, they'd say, sit down, but nobody would sit down. I would say, sit down, and they would say, sit down. They would say it just like I said it. Until the end, I'd say, sit down, and they'd say, sit down. And then I'd say, sit down, and I'd sit down, and we'd all sit down and laugh. We had learned something. So that's how we were learning most of our English lessons. They were learning from me, and I was learning, because when they sat down, they said, una duhuna. Sit down. Yes, una duhuna. So after a while, it became the Feast of the Ascension, so it must have been round about April, early May. And I took the children out by the beach because it was so perfect. Milne Bay is so like the Sea of Galilee. Later on, when I went to Israel and saw the Sea of Galilee, it was like looking at Milne Bay. Open, wide, and rough at times, smooth at times. So we went down and sat by the beach, and I said to them, Jesus sat by the beach with his apostles and talked with them. And then he said to them, let's go up the mountain. So they walked across and we walked across to the foot of the mountain, to the foot of the hill. And when we got there, I said to them, sit down, and I'm going to go a little bit further. So I went a little bit further up the hill, and I said to them, that's what Jesus did. He went up the hill a little bit, and then he slowly went to heaven, the ascension of Jesus into heaven. Standing by a tree watching us was a European missionary who was on his way home, finishing his work in Papua New Guinea, and so he had never been to Milne Bay, so he came to Milne Bay on his way home. And when I had finished giving my wonderful lesson, he said to me, you're wasting your time. They don't know anything you are saying. They don't understand anything you are saying. So after a while, I met the parish priest, who was a great man for languages. He learnt languages so easily. And I said to him, Brother, would you take my class for a religion lesson and ask them what they've learnt about this year? What have I taught them? He said yes. So a couple of days later, he came and he took the class out under the tree. He sat on a chair and they sat round the grass beside him. He was a really talkative man. And he talked to them, and they laughed and they clapped and they talked to him, and everything went very, very well. And when they'd finished, Father came over to me and said, don't worry, they understand everything you are saying to them. You know, it's not just our words that we use to communicate with people. It's our hands. It's our actions, it's our expressions. I remember once in a class in Trobriand Islands, a girl up the front started to cry. And I asked Rosemary, what are you crying for? And she said, because I've forgotten his name, swore at me. Damien swore at me. I said, Rosemary, you were in the front seat, Damien is in the back seat, and I'm standing here, I never heard anything. She said, sister, he swore at me with his face. So, we don't always just talk with our lips. We talk with our face, we talk with our eyes, we talk with our hands. So when I was teaching, I acted. I acted out the story from the beach up to the mountain, up the mountain. The children understood. So we have to be careful with what we say, what we do with our hands and our faces and our eyes. Don't be giving people hard faces. Be ready to smile. Goodbye and keep smiling.